Welcome to volume 11 of our Lunch and Learn series. Today, I want to cover two of the biggest return on investments parts of the platform, and that is target calendars and capacity planning. Capacity planning especially is probably one of the foundational reasons people go looking for an ERP or job management system. At a very basic level, whether it be improved quoting or scheduling or anything along those lines, really it always comes back to the same thing. Understanding how much work you have, understanding how much work you can take on, understanding where your areas are for growth throughout the rest of the time of the year that's left, and where we can fill those holes. And probably more importantly, how we can keep the ship at even keel, make sure that everyone's working at their best capacity and productivity, so that can be improved as we go along, which is extremely important. The other side to that, of course, which for a lot of people is sort of a big topic on mind, is how to grow and scale profitably. And the foundational key to understanding that, not just improving processes, is understanding when you start reaching your limits, so that you can look at areas of operation and say, well, we can now afford to take on more people because we have more than enough work to justify it, and it will improve the working experience for the entire team and, of course, the service delivery to our clients. So big one today. We'll also be covering templates and job types. Job types is the fourth area I slipped in today, as we were looking back through some of the workflow and organizational videos. Something we realized is we hadn't really gone into enough depth around one of the most important facets of the automation inside JobMan's workflow systems. And it seemed to be a question we're getting a lot. So we wanted to put that in today's webinar and really explain what job and lead types are and how you can use them to really improve your usage of the software. By the end of the webinar, we certainly hope that you understand the key functionality around the target calendar and its uses. Target calendar is just one in many tools around visibility. There are a lot in the platform, and understanding which one is right to use when and how is key. Understand the capacity planner and, of course, the labor centers, going right back to the beginning about around our operational links throughout the software, and how to set them up best to use for your business, what templates are and where to use them, and, of course, job and lead type creation and use cases, which are very important. So the first big one we're going to cover off today is the target calendar. Now, this is a fantastic area of the software. It is utilized by a lot of clients on a daily basis. It's a very, very, very powerful tool. And a couple of main benefits that it brings for you in the software is, of course, fast rescheduling. That's a big one. A lot of people love the automation behind JobMan, being able to automate their flows from lead into quote into jobs and get real time frames around where everything's taking. But we live in a real world, so there's always some requirement for flexibility. Automation is great, but things happen every day. So we need an ability and an area, more to the point, where you can quickly come in and quickly reschedule and be flexible and agile in the system, so that you're not spending a lot of time doing processes that would have normally taken you hours previously. So that's a big one. Easy project management visual for your operational areas. It is a very good visual tool for a lot of companies, being able to break down your operational areas, see the tasks that are on for the day, filter, of course, that information, and then drill down to see exactly what's happening where and when in your business in a fast visual aid. And, of course, keep on top of those key dates, which is very important to most businesses, whether it be dispatch or install. It's that key date we're all working towards. So having a fast visual to get your hands on that data very quickly, can save a lot of time in meetings and really help the whole team focus. The capacity planner is, as I said, probably one of the biggest key return on investments for the software for most businesses. It's one of the fastest ways to get a really good understanding of your business. And I don't normally go into to client testimonials and stories, but this is one of those areas where I think it's definitely worth mentioning. We had a client not so long ago that came to us that was really struggling to understand their capacity. They had plenty of work, plenty going on, but they certainly couldn't see the forest through the trees, so to speak. One of the first things they did when they came into the platform is that's what they focused on. They ignored everything else and they focused on getting all their current jobs in, building their labor centers, and getting a year snapshot of what their next year's worth of work looked like. And much to their surprise, even though they were quite busy, they found out using JobMan that they had 3 months where they had some key capacity that hadn't been filled. There were some big holes in that market for them, and they were able to bring on with a little bit of push with the team in just the first couple of weeks of owning JobMan and pick up about $350,000 worth more business. Now that's huge when you think about it. When you think about the not the cost. I hate the word cost. This is not a cost to your business. This is a platform that is designed to derive a return of investment. It is an investment in technology and improving your company, and it just grows and betters and betters and betters. And we certainly have hundreds of clients that will testify to that. But just that at a very simple number equation, being able to say, look, I paid X couple $100 or $1,000 a month, and I was able to bring in $350,000 just my first year with the software. That's incredible. It's like 10 years of the software paid for, not to mention the understanding that work was taken on in a profitable and actionable sense. It's easy sometimes to say, oh, I think we're a little bit down in one area in a month, but being able to see all of it is so very important, so that you're taking on work correctly and not just overburdening the team to try and push more work through the door, which is huge. So one of the benefits of it, of course, is that you can see it for differing areas of your business. It can be broken down operationally, so we can see it specifically for key areas such as install or dispatch, or cutting or machining, or even production drafting. You can even see it from the lead side as well. Make sure your sales teams are on balance. They've got enough leads coming through and enough work. And if they're being overloaded with estimates, that becomes a blocker in your business. If they can't get quotes out the door fast enough to keep up the demand of the leads you've got coming through, that's a problem, because that stalls the whole process. And just being able to fix that one key area by understanding it, seeing it, could have such a massive benefit for your business. And of course, my favorite part of the capacity is that it intuitively handles and manages the background of your workflow dates, giving you probably the first time, if you've never used a platform like this, and I certainly haven't seen one that goes to this depth, where you can actually ascertain true job lead times, not the we think it's going to take 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks. The actual, yep, we can see we've got capacity, we've got areas, we've got enough work, everything's even keeled out. And even with a little bit of buffer in there, we know we can handle the jobs we're taking on and give clients a real sense of confidence when dealing with you that jobs will be delivered on time. Templating is one of the areas of the software that is so important for a lot of companies. And I understand why. It's the key to the professional communication from the software to your clients, whether it be, quote templates, invoice templates, email templates, triggers and automation that we've been over before. One of the previous webinars really covered the benefit of building in some marketing and some communication into your software. And templates are really the foundation of that. There's a lot of templates built into the system for our clients. We're continuously developing new ones and new areas as well. So there's always more coming in, and we have a lot of variables pre-built. Now, one of the common questions I get is, look, if you're anything like me, and I certainly fall into this category 100%, I am not going to pretend in any way, shape or form I know very much about HTML whatsoever. It can be a little bit daunting and a little bit scary. Coming in and looking at templates and going, oh, I really want to make some professional templating, but I'm not 100% sure how to go about that. One of the good things to note is there are a lot of professional services out there, such as Fiverr. I've mentioned that up here. They don't tend to be too expensive. And it's one of those beautiful costs where once you do it once, you've sort of got that template forever. And that's how you got to think about it. That's how your company is first envisaged when dealing with a new client. What you send to them and what they receive and the format it comes in is so important, because that is their first interaction with you in most cases. If they haven't, walked into your showroom or met you personally, that's their first interaction with your company. So making it look right is it's a minimal cost to get that happening. I am actually going to cover a little bit of some very basic HTML stuff today and show you, now that we live in the world of technology, what can be achieved even with little to no understanding. Like I said, the templates are designed to be as easy as we can make them for people to use. And we certainly have plans in the future to even consider building some WYSIWYG editors into the system so they become a little bit more user-friendly for drop and drag. But there's plenty of options at your fingertips to get your templates up and running. A lot of A lot of staff these days have some basic understanding around HTML, and that's all you really need to get this operating. Production drafters, anyone that's been through a tape com site, even universities these days and high schools even, a lot of courses, the first thing they teach them is a bit of basic HTML. So if you've got production drafters or anyone that's a little bit tech savvy or computer savvy in your organization, they will probably be able to get their head around this very quickly, and use what we've provided you to make some great templates. But we just wanted to let you know there are services out there, easy to get your hands on. They're not expensive when you think about the long-term benefit. And we have a new implementation business that's joined, I guess, the ecosystem or community of JobMan supplier partners who have some liquid coders on staff. We'll be putting those up on the website in the next few weeks, so that you have another option, just yet another option to be able to come to someone who understands the platform and has a lot of experience in HTML templating to get the best out of it for you. The last thing we're gonna cover today, and I know I'm sort of belting through these slides, but I'm really excited to get into the software for you today, is job and lead types. Job types especially are the ability to expand and condense your workflows for easier management. And the primary benefit that brings is, rather than having to build a lot of workflows in our system, you can really build, for most companies, one, maybe two manufacturing processes, and then use job types to remove the operations that aren't relevant to that particular process. So a good example would be, and I'm going to use steel cutting here because it's a pretty good one. Not every job uses the same type of machining. So some jobs will be laser cut, some jobs will be water cut. If you think about the cabinet making industry, some jobs will involve stone tops, some will involve laminate tops, some will involve two-pack painted doors, et cetera, et cetera. So not every job is exactly the same. So having one workflow to manage everything, while good at a fairly hierarchical level, often doesn't go deep enough into the software. And we certainly don't want clients to have to sit there and NA a lot of tasks each time they bring a new job or lead in. So job and lead types is the one-click way in which you can define that workflow from the outset. And the beautiful thing about them is that they are updatable, they're flexible. So if at the beginning of the job, and I'll use the kitchen as the example, the client wanted laminate tops and basic doors, and then partway through the process they change their mind, you do a variation quote and send it to them, they decide they want to upgrade to the stone tops and want high gloss finished doors, you can simply update that job, bring in those new job types. It will bring in those operations into your workflow, and you can move forward, which is very exciting, very powerful, and a great foundational use of the software, and something I probably should have covered a bit earlier, to be honest, so I do apologize for that, but very exciting to bring that information to you today. So what I really want to do here is jump in the platform as always and run through some of these things live, so you can sort of see how that works, some of the uses, and some of the key areas. Not a lot today is going to be around the settings, which is good. I think it's more fun to have a look at the software and how it works, and then see how you can then utilize some of these tools in your business to get even more out of the platform that you're already using. So very exciting. Let's jump in. So we have back in our Lunch and Learn demonstration site today, and the first area I want to take you to is the target calendar. So as I said, the target calendar is really designed around operational information. It's the ability to see all of the, I guess, the productive tasks that are happening in your day. They can be color-coded. As you can see here, I've color-coded my different operational areas just to give me a fast, at-glance visual on what I'm looking at, so I can really have an understanding of where my areas are. Now, most businesses would probably have a lot of operations happening in a day. So the important thing to note about this particular view is this is not designed to be a granular control view, although you can use it in that way. If I think about the average company across the number of jobs they're working on, whether they be small, medium, or large, there could be upward of 50 or 100 operations here. So this is really not about, just at the standard level anyway, about granular control. even though you can break it down into the day or the week or the month if you really want to dissect. The agenda screens are really the power there. The agenda screens is where you can break down the operational areas, see them in good format, see priority listings, for example. That's a big question we get. Can I see priority in Target Calendar? No, that's got its own color sequentiality. It's built into the agenda screens. That's your fast information area. What are we working on today? What's the team moving through? And you can flick between them pretty quickly and get a really good understanding. The Target Calendar is more about overview. So it's about planning and project management. And a couple of really good key features around this, which I think are important to cover, is number one, most people would use this in a filtered sense. So what I mean by that is the ability to break down and focus in on key operations. And something you would have noticed that's come into the software in the last couple of weeks is the ability to even to save those presets. So this is very powerful now. You can come in and, for example, if the key operation in my business is install, which I imagine install dispatch would be for a lot of businesses, you can apply that filter. And what will happen is the job man will go through and just filter out all that information and narrow down. So when we're having our meeting, I can quickly look and say, this is the month of operations we're looking at. Even better still is we have print PDF functionality built into the system. And we have two templates built in the system, depending on how you prefer to view this. We have the calendar view, which is a fairly straightforward view. And obviously, if I had a lot of information here, this would be fairly expanded. And then for companies that use or have a lot of operations happening in the day, there's a template in there as well called the list view, which is my preference. That's certainly the view I prefer to use. It makes life a bit easier, where you can just see a running list of all the days across the month. But one of the great things behind this is because I can filter this information quite intently. For businesses that use contract installers or install teams or dispatch teams, whatever your critical may be, the fact that I can print and then email this to those teams is very powerful. I can let them know what's happening over the month. And if there's any issues with any of these dates, for example, if the 20th they knew they were going to be away, now's the time to tell me, because these are critical dates. So come back to the management team and say, hey, actually the 20th is no good. Can we move this date? And that gives us an opportunity to go back to the client and say, hey, look, we've got the capacity. We're going to move your day forward. Is that okay? Or a day late? Not a problem. At least you're communicating early in the process. So that's a really big part of it. The other advantage of the filters, like I said, is I can save that as a preset. So I could call this my install preset. And what will happen now is every time I come in, I can just choose from my drop down of presets. So you might have one set up for each of your operational areas. For example, you might want a preset so you can just quickly focus in your team meeting on Monday morning around the cutting for the week, the manufacturing for the week, the assembly for the week, the dispatch and install for the week. So we're going to have a quick chat about that, make sure everyone's on page there. And then, of course, we have the filter capability within the system to both look at leads, jobs, and projects. So we can filter by leads and say, quickly with the sales team, hey, let's have a look at the next week, see what leads are coming in, what follow-ups need to be done. Are there any, processes, any blockers that you can see at the moment that would stop you being able to move forward? And it just really quickly, and because digital, this can be put up on a screen in your meeting rooms. You can very quickly and easily filter and understand this information and then talk to the team about it, which is the most important part of the platform. So really powerful, a lot of use cases, very functional. If you're someone like me and you weren't thinking about this from an administrative point of view, you're thinking about this more as part of your job role. And let's say like my job role was involved with sales or project management, having a filter save for me, I could call that CAMS leads, for example, also allows me to come down and break down into the week or even the day view. Now, the day view, interestingly enough, can be quite useful for anyone that has a highly hectic schedule. This is a question we often get. Can I use the Target Calendar almost like my daily setup calendar? So this is not a fantastic example because I've only got one operation in here. But you could imagine if I had 6 or 7 meetings on that day, whether they be check measures or client follow-ups or discussions or meetings or demonstrations or showroom bookings, anything along those lines, I would have those operations here. And I almost have the capability, in fact, I do have the capability with the system to be able to come in and move that information around on the day and really set my day up So I can see what it's going to look like. I'm going to follow this through. So now I've got two tools, and being that I can duplicate my screen at any time, I really have the power of JobMan at my fingertips to be able to help me really manage my day in a really fantastic sense. So in one hand, I could be looking at, my agenda screen, which is my to-do task. This is where I go in and I measure my time and I tick things off. And on a different screen, I've almost got my calendar as a reminder to see where those things are. So a lot of flexibility there, a lot of power. And then, of course, one of the big parts to this side is the fact that, as you saw just then, I have the ability to quickly and agilely reschedule from one screen without having to physically go into all these jobs. If an issue does arise, I can jump in here. I can literally move that date. It's all drop and drag, very easy. And then it gives me the option, how do I want to maneuver the tasks around it? So obviously this won't impact, this will not impact tasks that have already been completed. But if I want to move that date and then have all the other tasks behind it, for example, counting or any other platforms, post-install or critical date, I can see that. And this can be done from any of the screens. So if you wanted to remove the filter and just go back to your original screen and just come back here and basically say, okay, show me all the production we're working on, show me all my areas. I can come in here at any point and I can move these operations around. I can drop and drag them. And this is especially useful for anything that happens rapidly in your business. For example, a supplier rings you up and says, hey, I'm not going to be able to deliver on the expected date, so you need to move the cutting a day along, or one of your production drafters is off and they are designed to handle that task. I can move that task around very easily. So this is a really good agile area of the software. It's not just great for visibility and day-to-day functionality and meetings. It also has the ability to really quickly reschedule your entire operations very, very, very fast, which is huge. And it's actually one of the biggest areas that clients love about JobMan. They really get a lot of use about our target calendar. And we certainly get a lot of questions about it all the time for this reason, because there's so many uses for it. So awesome. Second part that we sort of wanted to cover today was the capacity. Now, the capacity is, as I said, an absolutely phenomenal tool for many, many reasons. It is the key, fastest way to really drill down and see where all your holes are, where you can bring on more business. Also see where you're tapping out, where times perhaps going to force a little bit of overtime, or you've got so many jobs on at the moment that things are pushing out. We sort of want to see where they are. Now, one of the great things you can do with the Intuit capacity is you can let JobMan pretty much even keel your business. So every time you start a new job or a lead, you let it use the Intuit capacity and it will keep pushing target dates out to where you have holes. So if I come in here and let's say I just want to focus on one key element of my business, which could be, for example, let's change this one into the drafting. What JobMan will do is it'll remove all those other operations and it will bring in just the key operational time I've got just in that area. As I add more jobs, it's going to come through here and it's going to break down and add more or fill the capacity, so to speak, so that I can see where my holes are. I can see where I'm tapped out. Clicking on any of these bars stabilizes it. So it means I can quickly see what jobs or tasks are available in here. So this is yet another capability to reschedule from your software. If you do have jobs that have sort of piled on top of each other and you've ignored capacity and you don't want to use the smarts behind the capacity, you want to self-manage it, this is how you can do it. I can come in here, I can move those target dates, I can change those set dates, all from one screen, which is very, very, very powerful. The other major use of capacity, though, is understanding where those holes lie in an area and where we can really start to grow our business scalably. So the key understanding there for us is the final link in the operations of your workflows. So you built your operations as part of your workflows. We went back in and as part of one of the original webinars, you can go back and have a look at that. I do recommend it. It's a very foundational understanding of how the software works, is the key link between operations through your whole software platform. So the first link is the operations, obviously inside the workflows are the link to tasks with which our team can measure time. The second link to the operations, they link back to quotes, so that as we put quoted allowance into our quotes for certain manufacturing processes, they can now automatically come down into our jobs and allow for fast automated scheduling. So that's the second link. The third link is the key link, which is the reporting. I've got an estimated amount of time this job will take that I've quoted on. Now I've got an actual amount of time that will take. Tell me the difference so we can improve productivity. Huge. The fourth area is capacity planning. So just by setting up those two things, operations and labor centers, so much of the software then works instantly. It all just comes together in a nice bubble. And as I've said many, many times before, one of the great benefits of this software is the seated sites. We do a lot of this pre-building for you, so you don't have to set all this up. It's just about coming in and configuring it for your business. And what does that mean? It just means configuring these times and the number of people that are involved in those operational areas. Now, quick pro tip. If your business is not huge, so if you're not talking like about managing, 20 plus staff, and you're a typical SME, and you've got a handful of people and they are multi-skilled. So what I mean by that is you wouldn't typically break up, let's say you've got a 3-person operating team, you wouldn't break them up into individual operations. Like you don't just have one person who drafts, one person who is on the CNC machines, one person who assembles, and then one person who installs. All of them are quite capable of doing that. You can still use this system. Absolutely. What you would do is you would build a manufacturing labor center. You can call it manufacturing if you want, and come in here and apply all of the operations that are relevant. So for that person's, for those people's jobs, they can come in and any of them can do the CNC cutting, edging, the assembly, dispatch, install, for example. So I'd put all those operations in here. So that's part one, is give the labor center a name, put all the relevant operations that this labor center is responsible for. We have automated public holiday handling. When you first signed up, you would have set your time zone in the system, whether it be Brisbane, Sydney, New Zealand, South Africa, Great Britain. And one of the great things that we are linked into for some automation there around Google, so we can pull through all your local area public holidays, and it's a live sync. So if new holidays get added in your area, JobMan will automatically update. And that's important because for a lot of people, they don't work on public holidays. So we don't want the system scheduling work in around that time. And weekends quite commonly aren't used in manufacturing, or you might do limited hours on a weekend. So this is where we can control that by just choosing that group. Off it goes. Now, one of the great things about this is that you can have multiple public holiday groups. So if, for example, you use offshore production drafting, that's a common example of somewhere where manufacturers might use the software in 2 different time zones. It's not a problem. You can set up your drafting here and you could call it maybe offshore, and I can link that to their public holiday group. So JobMan will never attempt to put time or allowances for operations on days where they can't work. All of that is coming from this area. The second part to the understanding is understanding what we call segments. So JobMan is not just a dumb capacity build like a lot of platforms. It's very smart. And one of the smarts behind it is understanding your staff versus segments. So what do I mean by that? Typically, let's say you work an 8-hour day. Now, if you had 4 staff who all worked in that operation area, so I had 4 production drafters, and they all work 8 hours a day, I could go into most systems and set a capacity level at, 8 times 4, 32 hours, and the system would fill up my buckets. The issue is what happens when you want to be able to apply more people to an operation to reduce the time that the scheduling should take. And those sort of systems can't handle it. JobMan can, and it's using a system, what we call segmentation. So what we're doing at this point is we're not just telling JobMan the number of hours we have available in that bucket. We're also telling JobMan how many people we have available. So if, for example, I have 2 production drafters, rather than increase the number to 14, what I actually do is I say, well, I have 2 production drafters and they work 7 hours a day productively. I like to always recommend to clients that you sort of give yourself a bit of a buffering capacity. No one works, unless they're Superman or Superwoman, productively for 8 hours straight. You know what I mean? Bathroom breaks, there's lunch, there's time, people talk to each other, there's communication, there's things happening. So really think about your capacity at a quite a high level and sort of say, well, okay, we need to allow a little bit of buffer in here. And let's say your standard work day is 8 hours. I would say to most people, 7 hours is the maximum amount of productive time you'll get out of them. So let's set it at 7 so that JobMan's not trying to overload their days. and then set them up with 2 staff. And now JobMan has an ability to understand my segments. So yes, whilst it's going to come in, it's going to change that capacity to 14 hours because I have 2 staff at 7 hours. So I have 2 buckets. It also now has an understanding around segmentation. So if I have a really big drafting job, and let's say it was 28 hours, if I put that into my workflow and I push that job forward, JobMan will look at this and say, well, one person's allocated to it, they can do 7 hours. So that means it's going to take 4 days to do that job. And that's what it's going to automatically allow in your workflow when it sets those dates, all behind the scenes, all managed for you. If you turn around and say, well, actually, this is quite an important job, it's worth my time pulling 2 people onto this job. And you can use this example for anywhere throughout your business. It's very common that multiple people will be placed into a job segment. So whether it be install, machining, cutting, even quoting, some massive commercial quotes take days. Having two estimators working at the same time can really cut that time down. So now when I apply 2 people to that operation, that job, JobMan goes, okay, well, one person can do 7 hours, one person can do 7 hours. Therefore, they can handle 14 hours worth out of operation a day. Now it will only take 2 days and will automatically detract the segmentation and reduce your workflow down to allow 2 days for that, which is fantastic. This also means you can build really flexible capacity. So quite commonly, people say to me, oh, I have apprentices that work with our manufacturing team, perhaps in the install area, the assembly area. However, apprentices typically will have at least 1 day or 2 days of tech, and then they only really work productively with us for 3 days. So that ability to come in here and say, well, okay, on Monday, I have 3 staff, but on Tuesday they're at tech. But on Wednesday, I have 3 staff. On Thursday, they're at tech. And on Friday, the whole team actually works shorter days. You can build that now into your capacity. And JobMan is smart enough to go, okay, awesome. So anytime I'm allocating a job, I have a total of 21 hours on Monday at individual segments of 7 lots to be able to put time against those operations. But Tuesday, I've only got the 14 hours. Wednesday, we're back up to 21 and so on and so forth. And we don't work Saturdays, Sundays, or public holidays. Or you might have one person that comes in and does 4 hours on a Saturday just to help with some overflow work. And now JobMan has all the information it needs to really build the smarts around that area. And it was that easy to put together for you. So this is huge. So I wanted to actually dive, I know I said I wasn't going to dive too much into settings, but this is one of those areas I wanted to jump in and show because understanding labor centers and how that links is very important. And this is another reason why having those key operations set up is so powerful. Inside this operation of create CNC code and final drafting, I might have 20 tasks throughout my workflows, but I don't need to go through and find all those tasks and apply it to this operation, this screen. I can simply choose the operation, and now every task that's relevant to those operations will be factored in with this capacity, and that will manage my workflows. It will give me the information I need for my business. Incredible stuff. So really big. I hope that gives a bit more understanding around that area, because obviously, like I said, capacity, whether it be the real, the first top of mind reason you come to a platform like this, or it simply be in the back of your mind as really the ultimate goal you're looking for. This is, I think, what every business owner, organization is trying to achieve: true and transparent capacity, and JobMan can handle it. And don't worry, absolutely, we can handle important things such as adjustments for time. So if you have machine downtime, or you have staff that are going away, or you have some long service leave or maternity leave or something along those lines, and you know that a given area coming up in the next few months will be at reduced capacity, or even Christmas, you know what I mean? Over Christmas, we want to lock down, and I don't want to go into the software and literally come in and block off each of those days. You know what I mean? I just want a quick, easy, functional way to say, okay, for 2 weeks over Christmas, JobMan, we're going to be closed down. Please, as we're coming up in November, December, do not schedule any time in there. This is when we can do it. And it's a very easy system to use. You can basically come in, you set a starting date for when you want that capacity to be reduced, I guess. So we might say we're closing up on the 20th, and we'll be back coming into January on probably about the 13th, but I don't actually want you to put any tasks on there, because day one back obviously is all about chatting to everyone and making sure that we're all had a good holiday and everyone's nice and safe and et cetera, et cetera. So we can come in here, and during that time, I'm simply going to tell JobMan that I've got no hours of capacity available, and that will block off that area in my calendar. And one of the great things about this is you can actually see this physically. You can see this in the capacity where it will go through and it will remove the big chunks on any given capacity screen. In fact, you can see this week by week, day by day. So you can see there's my Saturday. I don't work Sundays. You can see the alterations I've made now. It looks very, very staccato in here, but that's the power, the flexibility of the system. And then if I was to push this out, there's obviously public holiday in here. So this one has been blocked off for me already. And if I was to push this right out to December, you would see no capacity available, which means so long as you're using the functional smarts of the system and allowing JobMan to do its Intuit capacity, it won't schedule any tasks on those days for you. So two big sides, that functionality there. There's a lot to cover, I know, but I definitely wanted to dive into that because it is foundational to the software. It's the last key part that everyone's looking for. And most importantly, it's very useful. Now, a common question I get, I'm going to just tap this one on the head very quickly, is what about the day-to-day? People get sick, they're off for a day, half a day here and there. Things happen all the time. Does the capacity adjust and modify? Do I go in there and I change it? Now, the simple answer to that is I wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. Really, capacity is about an overture to your business. It's an understanding of what you have available. The day-to-day small instances of, people not being there, it's kind of a little bit too late already. You've booked the work in, the capacity has been accounted for. You've taken that understanding. Simply reducing that capacity on the day isn't going to give you any greater flexibility in your business. You're still going to have to shuffle some things around, whether JobMan tells you or not. And what we always want to avoid for business owners is we want you spending less time in software managing, your day and more time actually working on your business and in your business. So realistically, we don't worry too much about the day-to-day. We recommend you use the capacity date changes for important things like areas where, a machine will be down or someone's a long service leave that will critically impact your capacity for a period of time. And then you can use the target calendar to quickly reschedule tasks on days when people are out. You can see that drop in your production spike for the day, and you just sort of pick a few tasks up, move them around very quickly and easily, and everyone gets on with their day. It's bad enough that you're already a little bit short-staffed. We don't want you to have to waste more of your day trying to headache your way through rescheduling. Let's keep the team on focus and keep things moving, which is super important. So all very good. The third thing we want to cover today is the job types. So job types and lead types. And again, I'm just going to dive back quickly to the settings here just to show you what I mean by that. But as mentioned, these are very, very, very good, powerful tools you can use to avoid having to build a lot of workflows in your system. There are some areas where workflow management is going to be quite different. For example, lead management, quite commonly, there's quite a different lead flow between a commercial or account client and a residential or a walk-in client. There's quite a big difference. So building two flows to handle that makes a lot of sense. You want to make it easy for the team just to come in and quickly go, yes, this one or this one. Auto-populate the workflow for me, JobMan. I'll set the start date. It'll do the rest. It'll push out my capacity, push out my agenda screen, push out my operations. Everybody moves forward. So that's absolutely a great use case of multiple workflows. However, when it comes to manufacturing, generally speaking, unless you have quite a different process based on the product you produce, and I think I mentioned this last time in the work order management, where for some industries, the actual process with which the manufacturing happens is altered or changed by the type of work. Doors was the example I gave, where the actual building process is the same. So the operations are the same. There's cutting and there's edging, drilling, routing, framing, fixing, and then hardware assembly. But the process in which you do that is altered based on the type of door it is, whether it be veneer or wood or steel, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to copy a workflow, drop and drag and move some things around and rename it and call it your new little workflow, so you have multiple little job workflows, absolutely makes sense for that industry. For 90+% of industries we deal with, it is more common that the manufacturing process itself is the same. However, you need things to come in and out of that process based on what that particular job requires. So I've got some really good examples built in here for you already, and I've kept without flow so that it all makes sense from previous things you've seen. And you can see I've got one here which is called painted. It's a job type called painted. And what that means is, as part of our operation, sometimes we do jobs for clients that require the doors to be sent off for painting, or maybe this is an internal process where you spray it yourself. This is very common in things like sign writing, joinery, and a lot of different industries. So galvanizing, for example, steelworks and that. But it's not relevant to every job. Not every job uses 2-pack painted doors. Not every sign requires vinyl wrapping, for example. So even though we want these operations and we need this allowance, and in this particular case, it's quite a significant allowance. It's a 5-day allowance in our workflow for items to be sent off to be painted or galvanized or dipped and then brought back. So it's really important at any time we have a job that involves this process that we have the allowance built into the system. However, if the job doesn't require this process, I don't want to blow out all my job lead times to have this 5-day allowance when it's not relevant to every job. And that's what job types really do. So I've built a job type called job painted, and I've allocated it to these 2 tasks. So that now, if I run any particular job that comes through, and let's say I use my Lunch and Learn job workflow as my standard workflow, if I check the box for painted, these operations will come in. If I don't check the box, they won't. And it's that easy. And as I said, this is also flexible inside the jobs themselves. So as jobs change or update, you can use this process to bring items in and out of the flow flexibly all the time. Now, there's 100 million use cases for this. I've given you some basic ones around like painting and stone, but I've seen a lot of clients utilize this so that they don't have to build multiple workflows for even things like the accounts department. You know what I mean? You will have a process as part of your flow, which involves receiving final payment. Now, for some customers, for your residential or what I'd call your walk-in clients, that it needs to be handled and processed before we can close out the job. So you might have that built in, and you might attach a job type to this called residential or private or walk-ins, for example. For your account clients, you can finish the job. You've been dealing with them for 20 years. You don't have a problem. You just send them an invoice or a statement at the end of the month, and they send through the final payments at the end of the operation. So you might, for example, build a job type called commercial or account client. So what will happen now is when I bring this flow in, if it's a residential client or a walk-in or a private, whatever you call them, this operation will pull in. If it's a commercial or account client, this operation will pull in, but not the other. So never twice. So that's just another really good use case. But honestly, there are 100 use cases for this particular power in the software. It's extremely useful. I highly recommend you have a bit of a deep dive. And there's a lot of documentation around job types and lead types. We have lead types as well. So if you don't need to massively modify your lead flow, for example, if the only difference between your builder work, your commercial work, and your residential work is your commercial work and your residential work requires the estimating process where we estimate, follow up, and move forward. But your builder work is they just simply send you plans and they already have your quote numbers set up. You already have a preconditioned contract. You might simply set up builder work to be just simply tender contract, and then don't apply builder to the estimating process. It will just jump that process every time you bring a builder job in, builder lead in, sorry. That's just another example. So a lot of use cases, and just so you know where this sits, just so that you get a bit of a feel for how to use this in a system. I've got a job here that we worked on previously together as part of the webinar series, and you can see here that I have in fact chosen the job type for painted. So what that means is that inside my flow, these 2 operations have in fact pulled in. Now, if the client turned around and said, I've decided against the 2-pack painted doors, I'm just going to go for some basic vinyl wrap or veneer, I can come in here at any time live inside the job, and then I can remove the painted work type. And what that will do is it will automatically NA those tasks. So it's going to hide them in my flow. So they've been removed from my task list, I've got my hide NA on here. So you can see now that that process is now done and this job can just flow through as per normal. And again, if they change their mind again, I need to bring it back in. I can do this as often as I need. So really good way of doing it. And when, of course, you are creating a job or a lead, one of the first things that we'll ask you as part of that process, and this goes for work orders as well, sorry, when you're actually creating it, one of the first things it's going to ask you is for the type. So straight off the bat, this is where you can choose the type to really expand and attract this workflow in just a matter of clicks. And this is how you can use the system to be extremely flexible for your workflow management and your job scheduling, just a handful of clicks. And it really allows you, for most companies, just to build one, maybe two workflows for your jobs, leads, and projects, and then use types as the superpower to break it down. Last thing I'll quickly show you, just so it's on the recording, if you ever need to find them, is actually creating different job types to be able to assign. It's very easy under your settings or jobs, or under settings leads, for example. You come in here, there's an area called types. All this is documented, and they're just a tag. So I can come in here, create a new type, and this is now a tag that's available in my system, and I can now apply that type to different operations in my workflows. You can apply multiple, by the way. So if you have a very similar flow for your residential and your commercial work, but slightly different for your builder, I can assign those two types to most things, and then only have one area assigned to one thing. A lot of flexibility, a lot of power. I can also come in here and I can really choose the order in which on that drop down I see these pop. That's what the sorting is in our system. Anytime you see this sorting functionality in the system, it's basically so it allows me to change and modify the order in which I see things. So the most common work I do, I put up the top so that when I use that drop down, it's even faster. I'm just saving myself time by being able to hit those clicks really quick and grab the most common types. 100% recommend you check out some of the videos around this, and the documents. Job and lead types are massive for the platform. Excuse me, getting a bit dry there. Last thing before we dive into some Q&A, of course, is templating. Now, as I said, templating is foundational to the way the software operates. It's the way that you communicate with your clients, sometimes even the way you communicate with your team. Templating is extremely powerful. Now, one of the most basic, I guess, concepts around templating is, of course, the quote template's the one that most people are most commonly see and use in the software is, quote templates. Changing my quote template gives me my ability to change the information that I show people. And this is what goes out to the client. This is what they see. This is that forward-facing thing, having your nice organizational logo and information on there. And then, of course, being able to set up your terms and conditions so that every time it just becomes a one-click. This is why templates are so important. We want everything to be one click in your system. Change the type. This could be invoice types, templates. This could be job emails, notifications, etc. A lot of different templates in your system. Now, the good news is, we've been doing this a while. So look, we're really comfortable with the vast majority of templates people are looking for. Over the years, many clients have come back to us and asked us for different ways to do things, or seen things, or built things, or so they ask us, can it be built? We can show them that absolutely can be built with the templating system. So, for example, in my quote templating, and this is again all out of the box. I haven't touched anything in here. This is out of my seated site. We provide you with a lot of information. You can see that there's 6 different quote types in here, straight out of the bat. Do I want to show just a very basic quote with items and a value? There we go, nice and easy. Do I want to include some of the details inside those items? So it's not just a kitchen, it's a kitchen that involves, some cabinets and some services and some specific materials like a pantry, for example, with an SKU. Do I want to involve those item specs we built way back when, right at the beginning of the lead process? So powerful, these item specs, you can use them in so many areas of the software. Do I want to put them down the bottom of the quote so I can present a basic quote which has value so they can't take my quote down the road and get it compared one for one and have someone rip my price off? That's fine. I can just build a basic quote: kitchen, bathroom, laundry, ensuite, for example, or chain fencing versus gate fencing versus gabling, or steel, parts versus area versus water cut versus labor cut. I can just have those basic items built, but then I sort of want to let the client know what they spoke to us about and what they were after. Still, I want the details on there, but I don't want them to be able to, sideline the process. So absolutely, with a quote detailed with item specs, it'll give them a breakdown of the quote, it'll give them a price, and then it will come in and put those specs automatically down the bottom. So the client's got everything they need to make the decision around the quote. There's the quote, there's the price. That's what you asked for. You happy? Awesome. Let's move forward. You can see, however, there is a lot of different templating in our system, a lot of different areas where templating is used. Are around notifications. So if you were at our last webinar, we dived into notification triggers, email triggers. And this is actually a big one, a common one that people use in our system, which is, building multiple different emails so that at the drop of a button, at a drop down, I can choose some pre-templated information. Now, obviously, one of the things I want to show you today, if you walk away with anything from this webinar other than all the exciting things we've been covering, one thing I still want to get across to everybody is I have a non-technological background. I am not someone who understands HTML. I'm not a programmer. I've worked in business solutions management for 20 plus years of my life. And my understanding of technology is extremely limited. Even at a very basic level, I can utilize this templating system to make some good changes and build some really cool stuff in the software. And I want to show you that today. I don't want anyone to ever be scared, by this area. Obviously, if you're a company and these templates are really important, especially probably the most important ones are the quote and invoicing templates and the purchase order templates, the way we present that information to our suppliers and clients, absolutely. And that's why I mentioned Fiverr or, the implementation service that we have through some supplier partnerships to reach out and maybe pay for some of those. It's absolutely worth it. You build them once, use them 1,000 times. They pay for themselves 1,000,000 times over just in your professional standard. But certainly for things like when building notifications, triggers, email templates, this is really quite a straightforward area that you can benefit from the system and make some changes yourself pretty comfortably. And the way we've done that is obviously we have the HTML down the bottom. So if you're comfortable with HTML, you can utilize that. And we put in a lot of those areas template variables. And this is basically the body of the contact. So imagine I was creating an email template and I wanted to create just a default email template I could send out to our clients to be able to, mention some basic things about our business and use some templates. It can be quite easy to achieve even without understanding of HTML. And what I've actually asked one of our phenomenal people here, hopefully you can see this okay, it should come into the shared screen, is I'm just going to take 2 minutes of your time before we go into Q&A. And this is sped up quite fast, but don't worry, you can always pause and slow down this video once it becomes live. It's just to give you a bit of an understanding with today's modern technology and zero understanding about HTML, how you can utilize our templates, plus some really basic technologies out there, one of the best ones being AI, of which there's multiple free versions out there. Gemini with Google, there's ChatGPT. I think Microsoft has their own version now, all come free with most platforms. I use Google Gemini a lot. And with just a very basic understanding of a few core principles around HTML and using that, you can quickly build some templates and have zero understanding around coding, programming, or HTML. So I just want to play this quickly for you. It is sped up quite quickly because nobody really wants to see, someone actually program and build these things through. But you can see how easily they can come in and just using our templates, which are just copy and paste, changing some information, building a body around, quote email or a template email, you can really put together some fantastic automation. And you don't need to go up and pay someone to do this. This is very straightforward. Now, the actual HTML side, which we'll show you in a second, does require, the caveat I am going to put here is does require a little bit of understanding, understanding CSS, Tailwind, and those sort of programs and how they interact. Absolutely. Again, most of that's actually Googleable. I looked up last night how to change a few of these things. What a P is. It's basically a paragraph. It's a break. What a div is. And just quickly seeing how you can change some of those things very easily and what impact that has on the template. Now, one of the great things about this is you can have a bit of fun with this. You know what I mean? You can come in, because all our templates are copyable, you can copy the base one, change the name to, playing with or something like that, and then have a bit of a go and see what you can create. Worst case scenario, if you absolutely destroy it, delete it. The original template's still there with all the functionality and page breaks and and HTML working properly. And you can come in there, copy it again, try again. Or if you really just want to make simple, easy changes, in most areas, the body is where you can make the changes, so that the top part here, this part here, is where you will spend most of your time playing with your templates rather than the HTML side. So if nothing else, I guess I just wanted to provide a bit of an example of how you can use modern technology such as ChatGPT or AI to get some good little basic understanding around Google templating and HTML coding and some quick changes. And it will spit the HTML out for you. It'll tell you, if you want to make a word bold, it's, strong line strong, parenthesis, put it between either side with a slash on the right-hand side, and the text in between that will become bold. Learned that last night. And it's a bit of fun. So absolutely, this is professional and easy putting this together and how this can be utilized. But I certainly in no way, shape or form ever want anyone to be scared about using this templating and having a crack. And for the most part, you will spend most of your life in here. And we've built a lot of what we call WYSIWYG editing information in here. So, you can insert hyperlinks, insert images. If you understand with the CodeView HTML, you can utilize that as well. We've got things like strike throughs or anything you would need to format this body without ever having to touch this. For most things is here. And then, of course, we have a lot of template variables on the right-hand side, which are as simple as copying and pasting into the area, and that will pick up that information and use those smarts. One last thing I'll mention on these before we move into some Q&A is that template variables, just so everyone aware, are mapped to a specific area. So what I mean by that is they're not just a dumb field you put in and expect that to drag that information from anywhere in the software. These have been physically mapped to this area, so they work, is basically what I'm saying. So if you look at a particular template and you're in, say, like a quote template, and you see a template variable that's fantastic and you put that in the quote template, it will work. If you go into a quote email template and you don't see that template here, and you copy and paste it from another area and try and chuck it in, it won't work because it hasn't been mapped to that area. With that said, we get constant requests all the time for template variable upgrades. And so we absolutely are constantly adding more for clients and putting them in. So do keep your eye on them. And if there's something that's extremely important to your business, do reach out and let us know. And I'm sure we can, if it is at all feasible or usable use case, we can put those in.